Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of In the Spotlight. I'm Mike Kenichi. Very excited tonight. We have a very special guest. He has coached baseball, he's coached basketball, he's coached volleyball. He's done it all. I mean, he's been all over the place. And it is my pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Russ Scovin. And Russ, I want to thank you for coming on tonight. It's a real pleasure.
Well, thank you for having me. Come on.
Appreciate it. So, Russ, let me ask you, before we talk about your coaching career, give everybody a little idea about your background as far as an athlete when you were a kid.
An athlete. Let's see. We started playing Little League probably around 8 years old up at the Derby Little League. Played Little League right through 12 years old. Went into Babe Ruth, I think 13 to 15. And then I also played in senior Babe Ruth in baseball.
Right. So let me ask you. Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead. Yep.
Football, I just played in 7th and 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Did not play in high school. And, yeah, that was the end of my football career. Right. And then I played some bitty basketball.
And now, where'd you go to high school at?
I went to Derby.
Derby. Okay. So you were, if I'm not mistaken, you were around if I had to guess, you were around the class of 76, 77?
77 was the class.
Oh, so that was the same team that won the state title in baseball. You were obviously in that school. You were a classmate. Talk about that a little bit. What was that experience watching those guys, go through?
It was a lot of fun. I think they barely made the tournament at the end of the year. And then they were in the S tournament. And then they just came together. They played as a unit, and there's no way they were going to be denied. Dave DeRosa was one of the big factors there. Gary Biesadecki, Ed Wazakowski. They were all really good players, and they weren't going to be denied a state championship. You could tell. They lived for it. There's no denying. It didn't matter who was coaching. Didn't matter, but they loved it.
Yeah, I mean, everybody talked to, that was a very special team. I mean, a lot of good players who really stepped up. So, it'd be a long drought before Derby'd win another one. It was about 14 or 15 years. So, I mean, that was a special time.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it took them a long time. And I don't know when the last time they won one. Was it mid-90s maybe?
92 they won, and then they won in 96 as well. And that was their last one. They came close. They came close, I believe, in 2012. They lost to Crabwell in the championship, but 96 was their most recent one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, John D. was the coach then. Yep.
Yeah. So let me ask you, Russ. I believe it was 1979. You started coaching Babe Ruth. I think you coached with Steve Riley, who's been a longtime assistant at both Derby and Seymour. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, yeah. I was actually supposed to be an assistant coach because I didn't coach before. Pete Dante, that's right. He was running the league then. I was going to coach with Dave DeRosa. But then we went to the meeting. It was pretty informal back in the day. And they needed a coach. So they said, you're coaching the Mets. So I stepped up and we coached the Mets. And we struggled maybe a year. And then we got a little more experience. I had a lot of 13-year-olds, 13 to 15. And we came together pretty good the last couple of years as a team. And Steve was obviously a great help. I played for him in senior Babe Ruth, and he's just a great baseball guy. So he helped immensely. He was really good.
And you coached that team for about 3 or 4 years, correct?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So that's a good way to kind of get your foot in the door, get some experience, because Babe Ruth is the highest level you could go till high school. So, that was good at a young age. You got some.
I did.
Yeah.
I was mid-20s, maybe not even, early 20s. So it was, we got a good experience there. It was fun. I still talk to a few of those players.
Right.
Ron Leno.
Oh, boy.
Kent Ritter, yeah.
Yeah. Any good Ronnie Leno stories? Because he's an awesome guy. Great. He's got, he's quite the character.
Quite the character. I've known him since 80, 81. And, the stories back then were he was a good player. He was very aggressive. He wanted to win. He was good. he contributed a lot to our team. We loved having him on our team.
Right. So 1982, I believe you became the assistant Derby freshman baseball coach, and you coached with another pretty cool kind of guy in John D. Francisco, and you just mentioned him earlier. Talk about that first season with John D., and I'm sure you picked up a lot from him because a great baseball mind.
Oh, yeah. I coached first base. I was just getting out of college, I think. I was just finishing up, and he needed an assistant. I said, yeah, I'll do it, because I'd known him from school too. And he was fantastic. I mean, he knows baseball probably better than anybody that I know, maybe even. He had some really good plays. He liked to do, he knew the situation. He focused on defense. He focused on pitching. He would bunt a lot. He just knew the mechanics of the game. I mean, he knew the shortstop shouldn't play so deep. Got to move the shortstop in. The way he talked to his players. I mean, he kidded around with them a lot, but he got on their case sometimes. But overall, they really respected him. And yeah, he does. He has a great baseball mind. I mean, he was fantastic. I still, to this day, use some of his lines that he used to tell the team. Some of them were kind of funny, and but the instruction was tremendous. He really was a good instructor. He knew the game.
And I bet coming to practice every day, coaching with him, had to be so much fun. I mean, it didn't seem like work at all. It seemed just fun being at the field totally every fun. Day. Yeah, and I think a coach like that, he's going to, again, get, like you said, get on their case, but he's also going to lighten the mood too. And, kids are going to enjoy coming to practice every day because that he's always going to lighten things up every day.
He always has their back too when the game started. I can tell you that. So he lightened the mood a lot.
So let me ask you. Let me ask you this. I mean, he always took advice from his father, Tony. Was his father at some of the practices at times?
Yeah, his father used to go. Yeah. Yep. Tony, I guess he used to coach. I don't know if he coached the high school or not, Tony.
Yes,
Tony,
he did. Yeah.
Did he?
Back in the, I believe, early 60s, yes.
Okay. Tony had a great baseball mind too. And he was always up there. He knew what was going on, even at his advanced age. And he was a great fan of John and our team. So it was nice having him up there.
Right. So the following year, Russ, you take over as the freshman baseball coach. So basically, I mean, you get that 1 year of high school freshman experience, and then you become the head coach. Let me ask you, how was that year of coaching at Derby as the head coach? And did you feel like, you learned a lot about, because it's different being an assistant coach than being a head, because you're responsible for a lot of things you got to take care of, paperwork especially. Was it different?
Yeah. A lot different. I mean, I had my own style, and I learned a lot from John, but I had different ways to do things. Paperwork, and as far as setting team rules and discipline and all those kind of things, it was definitely a lot more responsibility dealing with parents and things like that, getting the lineups together. But I learned so much the previous year. It wasn't a huge transition for me to do that. So it was actually pretty good. Right.
And again, it's hard to always remember records and stuff like that, but how'd the team do that?
I think we were about 500.
500.
Nice. I remember beating St. Joe's in the bottom of the seventh. John D's, I think, brother-in-law used to coach over there, but we played the freshmen over there. We walked them off in the bottom of the seventh, 2-1. So that was like probably our best win. So it was fun.
And if I remember the kids you coached, I would say you probably had kids like Pete Sacku.
Pete Sacku, yep.
Yeah, Steve Burns, guys like that. I mean, was that the freshman team you coached that year?
Yep. Steve Burns, Sacku, Gabinelli.
Yeah, Jeff Gabinelli. So, I mean. Dorsch, yeah. So it was a good amount of players that you coached who had good athletic careers, did great things. I mean, Pete was a great 3-sport player at Derby. So, I mean, you got to coach a very talented group of athletes that those couple of years you were there.
I did. And plus, I knew a lot of them from the Babe Ruth League. I knew most of them, actually. So I had a little heads up. When we started practicing, I kind of knew their tendencies and, how good or bad they were in certain areas. So that helped too. It was fun.
Right. And Russ, a couple of guys I really thought of that you probably necessarily didn't coach them because they were on the varsity, but you got to see a lot of them. I think of guys like Greg Spock, Jeff Toney.
Yes.
Yeah. And we know like what a great athlete Jeff was. I mean, what was it like to get to see some of those guys play baseball at the varsity level?
Oh, it was great. They loved the game. They went out there and hustled. They were all about winning. And they had a lot of pride in what they did. And they wanted to win. And I still see Jeff. In fact, we're going to be playing in the golf tournament August 20th up at Lyman Meadows up in Middlefield.
Yeah.
I always see him up there. And I saw him at the AM Club that night, too. We were there. So Jeff's a good man. Yeah. It was fun watching that team. They were good, too.
Yeah.
They had some good talent.
And you talked about Ronnie. I mean, Ronnie was a good catcher as well. He could hit. So, I mean, just a great Derby in the 80s, Russ, I would always say this, just had so much talent when it came to football, baseball. I know they didn't win in basketball, but look at Pete. Pete was a tremendous basketball player. Yeah. I mean, so they had tremendous wrestlers, stuff like that. So, I mean, they had a very talented group of athletes in that school back in the 80s.
Yep. There's no question. They were good in a lot of sports. So it was fun watching them play.
Right. And Russ, let me ask you, I think after the 83 season or 84 season, you had to leave coaching and teaching for a while, correct? You went back and
for a long while.
Yeah, a long time. I think you wouldn't come back till maybe 2004, 2005. So, I mean, talk about it's crazy to think that you coached in the early 80s, then you left for quite a few decades, and then you returned. So just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I went out into the business world, had to make a living, did a lot of work in finance and accounting, and I still do tax returns. Also, I'm still in that business at night, during the winter mostly. But during those couple decades, I guess it would be now, I realized I miss coaching, being around kids, and the opportunity came along to coach up here in Bethany and Woodbridge, the Little League teams up there. So I went up to the field and talked to Dwight Rowland, who's the president up there. He still is. And I started being a helper to the Little League teams up in Woodbridge. And I realized, I still like doing this. It was still in my blood. So I did that for several years.
Right. And if I'm not mistaken, you still kind of oversee the umpiring and you the running of Little League, right? I mean, you're kind of overseeing both to this day.
Yeah, I'm still on the board of directors. I take care of the umpires. Arnie Mann, I have to pay off all the guys that he sends up there. So I've been doing that for probably close to 10 years, I would think. So yeah, I still have a lot of responsibility to do that. So it's fun. And then we usually run an eight-year-old tournament up there. We have 17 teams actually come in from all over the state. 8U. They can't pitch, so there's a machine pitch. And then they have a 17-team tournament. It's really, real fun. I'm usually up in the booth with playing the music and keeping the score between innings. And it's fun. I still like to do that.
And what's very unique, Russ, about your career, which a lot of people may not realize is, again, you went into the business world, and then I think about 4 years ago, I think it was 2018, you got your teaching degree in middle school math, correct?
So, I did.
I mean, so, I mean, that's like, it's funny to think that you would change careers so many years like that, but you did. And you ended up getting a job at North Branford Intermediate School.
I did.
Yes.
And, they needed somebody as a substitute there, and I talked to Mr. Davis and Keith O'Rourke, and then they brought me right in. So it was fun. I'm glad I did. I'm still working there to this day. So I'm going to be going back as a para, I think, this fall. I'm not going to teach.
Right. And that same year, the school needed a softball coach, and you had never coached softball before, but they decided to hire you anyway. So, I mean, that's pretty unique in itself. So just talk about that first year of coaching softball there.
Yeah, they were looking for a coach, and I got my coaching certificate with the state like a few months before. I was thinking about going back in, and they really didn't have anybody. I'm not going to go up there and say that I beat out 5 people for this job, because I didn't.
Yeah.
They just brought me in, and they knew. I said I had a pretty good background in baseball. I had really not much with softball, but they said, "Oh yeah, you could do it. You could do it." So I did. I stepped up, and that team was super good. They were really good. A couple of those girls just graduated from high school, actually. And
Yeah.
Anna Sinersha, Bella Hills, Gianna DePino, they were really good. Mesa Queso. And a couple of them actually got scholarships to go to college. I had really good 8th grade leadership on that team.
And that's got to be a great feeling for you as a coach to see kids that you worked with at the young junior high level, and now they're doing these great things. They've got a scholarship to various colleges. So, I mean, it has to be fun, because at the same time, when you work with kids like that throughout the year and as years go on, they don't just become your players. They become like family as well.
Oh, definitely. To this day, when I see them, we have a long conversation, those girls. In fact, I know all the players on the North Branford varsity softball team. I think I've coached all of them now. This was the first year that I had all of them. I've had last year I didn't know a few of the seniors, but now I know all of them, and I know how good players they really are. They're totally dedicated. A lot of it has to do with they play during the summer. In fact, I went to a game today, a 12U or 14U game. They play probably 30 games over the summer, another 20 in the fall.
Wow.
So it's just a softball haven there, and it really helps me. Like, they were all really experienced kids when I got them. It's like, wow, this is pretty easy.
Right. And that team that you coached with, Hannah and Bella, that team, I believe, went undefeated 10 or 11-0.
Went
correct?
10-0, I remember, yep. Because
Yeah.
the principal gave them all, cake and cookies and stuff, because we were undefeated. But I don't even think we had a close game that year.
Wow. So that must make your job a lot easier. I mean, it must be nice to sit back and just watch these kids compete. And, you still have to do stuff, but you don't have to go crazy because the team is just so good.
Yeah. I didn't have the 8th grade leadership, like I said, was great. They would only play maybe 3, maybe the most 4 innings, and I'd have the 6th graders out there. So they even learned under the 8th graders, and they performed well tue. So I was like, and they're getting great experience because they're going to be back for 2 more years. So
right.
It was a perfect storm, a good storm.
Right. Let me ask you, what's the difference as far as it goes for you coaching baseball as opposed to softball? Is there a difference?
Oh yeah, there's a difference. Baseball, there's a little bit more things to do. Obviously, there's leads. So that's really a big thing. The pitcher has to throw over the first. In baseball, obviously, softball. The good thing about it is the pitchers can just keep cranking away. Their arms, they can just keep coming back almost day after day, because their arm, the underhand motion, doesn't get them tired. So you don't have to worry about how many pitches they throw, really, which is huge in baseball.
Yeah, because in baseball you have to have somebody keeping track of that.
Yeah,
you can't go over to 110. So I mean, softball, at least you could just coach and not have to say, okay, Becky or whoever had so and so pitches, they got to come out now. They could just keep throwing until you feel like maybe they've had enough.
Yeah, I mean, they just still get tired, but their arms never get hurt from pitching. I don't think. Very, very rare. So that's a huge difference. It's huge.
Right. And in 2018 too, Russ, you coached volleyball for the first time. Now let me ask you about that, because I've known a lot of people who have done that. They didn't coach volleyball ever in their life, and some of them are coaching college now. So just talk about coaching volleyball, and how do you enjoy doing that?
I really like volleyball. Actually, the year before I started coaching, I refereed one year. I was with the board, the Connecticut board of volleyball. Mm-hmm. I used to do some high school games, JV games, and I would stand up in the chair and I kind of thought that was, I don't know, boring is the word, but you just point this way, point that way.
Yeah.
I mean, you got paid well, but it wasn't for me, I don't think. And I always said, if I ever coach volleyball, we're going to be working on our serve, because I'd have teams that are varsity teams like North Haven, Hamden, good teams. They'd be running a run, then the kid would hit the ball in the net. It's like, oh my God, they just lost, they just lost their serve. So that was another situation where they needed a coach. The teacher that had just done it had left the school, and the principal asked me, he goes, you could do it, because he had that and soccer. He goes, which one do you want to do? I said, I'll do volleyball. I'm so glad it's volleyball. Soccer is not real big in North Branford. So, but volleyball is great. It's been a lot of fun.
Right. And your second year coaching softball, Russ, the team again had another good record. They went 8-2. And interestingly enough, I think you only had 2 or 3 eighth graders on the whole team, correct? So, I mean, pretty good record considering you didn't have a lot of eighth graders.
Right. We lost a lot of the eighth graders from the previous team. I had a lot of sixth graders filling in. And we had, I think, 2 eighth graders, Santina and Tessa. Yeah. And it was rough, but, we got through it. I think, like I said, I think we were 8 wins and 2 losses that year. We lost 1 game at Branford and 1 game at HK. And other than that, we were okay. No, it wasn't as easy as the first year, I can tell you that.
And let me ask you this, Russ, because I'm not really familiar with, like, the history of Branford, North Branford. Is there a little rivalry there, or what? Like, as far as the teams go?
There's a rivalry, not between Branford, because they're in a different league. They're in the SEC.
Right.
We're in the Shoreline. So we don't play them that much. We just schedule them that year. The softball rivalry is with HK.
HK, okay. Yeah.
It's big, and still is big. So
right.
They get up for us, and we get up for them.
And how important do you think it is, Russ, for each team to have a rivalry? Because it gives the kids something to look forward to. You want to have, like in football, Derby and Ansonia had that rivalry. So when Derby would start their season, you knew by like the 5th or 6th game, you knew what was around the corner. They were going to get to play Ansonia, and that was their season. They loved playing Ansonia. So how important do you think it is for any school to have a nice, friendly rivalry?
Oh, it's really important. Especially like for the alumni, they remember playing that game. They come to the game a lot of times and reminisce about, how they did and what the future is looking like. And they circle it on their calendar. I know North Branford and HK circled when they're going to play each other on their calendars. I mean, it's a big rivalry. And it's really important for the school, I think, to maintain those rivalries, because it's tradition. So, I think it makes them play better.
Right.
Both teams. So.
And Russ, your second year of coaching volleyball, another good year. I think the team went 10-2 or 10-3. And what was really special about that group is they were a very talented group of kids. And you guys beat the JV team that year, correct? In volleyball?
We did. We went up and played the JV team, beat them a game up there. They were a little surprised. There was a lot of teachers there at the game. It was pretty chaotic. It was a lot of fun. So I'm going to pronounce her name wrong, but you had a very talented kid by the name of Christina Nera. Is that how you say her name? Christina Nero, yes. Yeah, Nero, yeah. So talk about her. I mean, she's in high school. How is she doing as far as volleyball goes and stuff like that? She's actually didn't go to North Branford. She went to Sacred Heart. Oh, okay. So she's doing excellent. I saw her. She came to one of our 8th grade games. Softball, because she also was a softball pitcher and very good pitcher also. So she came to one of our games. She's doing good. She's very quiet, but she's a really good leader. And Adriana Hills was super in volleyball. She's still super, and she's super in softball. So I had her too. She's tiny. You'll hear about her. Right. And Russ, interestingly enough, this is what I mean about how your career is so, like I said, so cool, because you've tried so many things. Most people try new things at a very young age. As you've gotten older, you've tried different things. And I believe it was 2020 or 2021 that you were asked to be the girls basketball coach. And in your first year, the team went 16-0. So talk about that. Yeah, that was another situation. They needed a coach. There was some applicants for that. I think a few parents wanted to coach, but the principal, I don't think, wanted parents to coach because I think he probably knows they're going to coach a year or two and leave because their child is going to be leaving. So he asked me again to step up and do it. And I was a little hesitant this time, but I said yeah because I like the principal there. He's always backed me up, and I stepped up and volunteered to do it. So, and
Right.
the
And
team
that was their first undefeated season in school history, correct?
was their first undefeated team. Yep, school history. And the year before, they'd only won 3 or 4 games, I think, but they were mostly in 7th grade, and they were moving into 8th, a lot of them, and they got the experience from that team. And I had inherited a pretty good team, I have to say.
But that's pretty cool, Russ, because that'll always be like something that'll be in the history books of that school is that they were the first undefeated team, and you were the first coach of that undefeated team. So you get to have a little history there for North Branford.
Yeah, that sounds good. Tiana Criscola was really a super player, and she still is. She's going to be a junior this year. So,
yeah.
And I had some other really good ones too, like Lindsay Onofrio, Natalia Lucibello, Mercedes. I can't remember her last name, but yeah, we were good. But the trick about when you have that talented players is, to keep them together, make them work as a team, because you can have all the talent in the world, but if they're not playing as a team and they don't love each other on the court, you're not gonna win. It's not gonna happen if they don't trust each other. And that team did. They trusted each other. They were really good leaders to the 6th graders. It was fun to be around. We had a good time.
Right. Russ, I always talk to people who obviously the pandemic affected them in many ways, and obviously it affected you because you weren't able to coach softball and volleyball for a season because of the pandemic. How tough was that? Because you like the interaction, you like being at the softball field, being at the volleyball court. So how bad was that for you?
It was bad. The volleyball, we actually did practice though.
Yeah.
We had practices, and we didn't cut anybody that year. And then we'd have inter-squad scrimmages. It wasn't quite as fun as playing against other teams because, the competition wasn't there. But we did practice, and it helped for the next volleyball season, which was last year. It helped a lot. Yeah. I did miss the competition though, and softball we never even went out in the field. It was just no way. So I missed it a lot.
Right.
We all missed going to school too. I mean, it was pretty rough for a while.
Yeah, and when they finally did return, and it seemed like things were somewhat normal, things were back to normalcy. The softball team, I believe, had another undefeated season. They went 9-0. Talk about that team a little bit, because you had some special players on that team as well. I could think Alexi Falcone.
Falcione, yep.
Yeah, Kaylee Durkin. So talk about that a little bit, because that was a very good team.
That was another team, yep. I had good 8th grade leadership. I had Lexi Falcione, Kaylee Durkin, and Adriana Hills, and who's a phenomenal catcher. They took over the team too. They showed the 6th and 7th graders how to go to practices, how to be serious about games. And they also played a lot in the summer and even in the winter, those kids. They just loved softball, and they still do. So we had a lot of talent. It was fun coaching them again. And, we took it to most of the teams. There wasn't too many close games that year. So we ended up undefeated again.
And Russ, one challenge that you had in the volleyball season is you had some trouble scheduling some games. Obviously, with the pandemic not over yet, it wasn't easy to schedule games. So how hard was that? And again, another volleyball team that you coached ended up beating, I think, the Valley Regional Junior Varsity team, correct?
Yeah, it did. We were pretty desperate for games, and I was trying to get – the AD was trying to get games. I was trying to get games. I saw something in the CIC website that they were looking for games, their JV team, and I knew I had a really good team last year. So I said, I think we could play with this team. So And we got them to come into North Branford. We played in the high school gym because our gym wasn't even available last year because of some water damage. And they came in there pretty confident that they were going to beat us. And then we had a regular referee. It was a regular game. And we took it to them pretty good. They were a little shocked, but that's okay.
And that same group, I believe, beat the Han high school freshman team, correct?
We did. Same kind of thing came in. They needed some games because there's not a lot of freshman volleyball in the Shoreline or in that area. And Han and Madison, they came in with their freshman team, bigger than us. But we took it to them again. We had some very agile, very good players, skilled volleyball players. So, and we kind of put them, not in their place, but we beat them pretty handily. It was fun.
Right. And the basketball team had another successful year that you coached. The girls went 7-3. So talk about that. Talk about that team a little bit.
That team, yep. We didn't play. I think it was the previous year because of the COVID. So, we had some really good, strong players like Maddie Burke, who's going to go to Sacred Heart. She's going to play basketball there. She was a really good player. Skylar, I had Gage, another really good 8th grader. Peyton DePino was excellent. So, we had some good 8th grade players again. And we came out and we actually struggled through some of these games because of COVID. I mean, we went up to Westbrook. I had 18 players that I kept on the team. We only had 8 one game. 10 players were out because of COVID. So we managed to beat them, but we had to call a lot of timeouts, rest. We didn't play a lot of players that game, obviously. And they had really good attitudes, and it was fun coaching them too. I mean, all the teams I've had, almost every one of them has really had good attitudes towards sports, which really helps a lot.
Yeah, and that's a big thing because you want the kids to buy into what you're doing. And another successful softball season, another undefeated season. The team went 12-0. Russ, people may not – sometimes they think of like Babe Ruth teams or junior high teams is not a big deal. But you know what? In any sport you play, it's hard to go undefeated. And the fact that these kids did this 2 years in a row, that's pretty impressive no matter what the situation is. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, we ended up 12-0 last year. We scraped by a few games, believe it or not, this time. We won one game 1-0. We beat HK. We also won a game 2-1. We scored 2 runs in the bottom of the 7th. We were down 1-0.
Oh, wow.
And we won a game, I think it was 4-2, and I think we won another one 7-5. So we had a few of our 8th graders who had to go to graduations, stepped out, go out of state for a couple games. Had a couple were hurt because they had some issues they had teeth operation or something. Really good players. So I had some of the 7th graders really stepped up and took the reign, and they were really good. And it was some tough games there. I was spitting a lot of seeds from those tight ball games.
Yeah. 2 things I wanted to ask you about, Russ, and you could answer either question. It doesn't matter. But one of the things that I think has to change, and especially baseball, is the use of metal bats. I feel like they have to go to wooden bats in high school at least, because too many pitchers are taking line drives. I mean, you saw it the other day in Major League Baseball with a wooden bat. A guy took a 104-mile-an-hour.
I heard about that.
Off his head. And these metal bats are becoming really dangerous, and you really fear somebody's going to get seriously hurt. And the other thing, Russ, I wanted to get your feelings on analytics in baseball because I hate it. I just think it's ruining the game. So just give me your take on both of those.
Yeah, as far as the metal bats, that is definitely an issue at the younger level too. The good thing about softball is they can wear masks in the field.
Yeah.
Most of them do. It's even shorter in softball. I mean, the field is from like 4th grade through senior in college. It's the same dimension.
Yeah.
So it happens in softball just as much as baseball. So I agree. It's got to be, even for everybody, but a wooden bat wouldn't hurt at all.
Yeah.
So, and then as far as the, what did you call it? The analytics?
Analytics. Yeah.
Yeah. The analytics of baseball. Yeah, I agree. The shift has really taken a lot of the offense out of the game. guy hits a rocket into right center field, and there's a second baseman's out there fielding the ball and throwing the first. So I think they're going to change the rule of what I understand next year, and I'm not sure how it's going to play out, but I don't think there's going to be shifts allowed next year. And as far as coaching, like you get a guy like Buck Showalter in the Mets, like I don't think he uses analytics a lot. I mean, look how successful he is. He's an old-time coach. He goes on instinct a lot, and he knows his players. He trusts his players. They believe in him. And there's some analytics to what he's doing, but a lot of his is just, gut reaction, and you can see how good it works.
Yeah, I just think the fact that they could say that a pitcher shouldn't face a batter 3 times is ridiculous. I mean, again, I'll use a guy like Jacob deGrom. When he's healthy, he could face anybody, and he's going to 9 out of 10 times get him out. So, I mean, look at years ago, guys like Pedro Martinez, Randy Johnson. They never had trouble. They never had trouble getting batters out 3 or 4 times. So I think that's to me. I don't know why the game has changed like that, but it's not something I like at all.
Me either. The complete game is history. I think you see maybe 1 or 2 a month. So there's no more Nolan Ryans out there throwing 160 pitches. I think they didn't even count back then.
Right. So, Russ, records aside, wins and losses, stuff like that. I mean, what is your big thing that you preach to your players year in and year out about, especially like if you have captains as well, because anybody could be named captain, but to be a leader, you have to lead by example. So, I mean, there could be somebody who's a talented player and they get captain because they're a tremendous player, but sometimes that doesn't always make a leader. So how important is that?
Yeah, I don't really believe in the captains too much. So we don't really have them. So we don't have any elections for captains. I think it creates more problems than the good it does. But that's not saying we don't have leaders, because we do. We always have team leaders, and some are vocal about it, and some are not vocal about it. Some go by example. I could tell you, Kiana Criscola hardly said a word, but anytime she had to say something to the team, nobody said anything. She would say it, but she led by example. And I had other kids like Adriana Hills lead by example. So I've also had some other ones more vocal, and they've really helped out with the 6th graders a lot. So you really have to have good team leaders to be successful.
Right. And, one of the things that's tricky, Russ, in any sport that you coach is there's going to be times that kids may not get as much playing time as they would like. And sometimes, parents may not like it as well either. So, I mean, do you have a meeting with parents before the season starts and kind of explain to them, listen, when your kids are on this team, you have to understand there's no guarantee that they're going to be on the field the whole game or stuff like that. I mean, do you have a meeting with them just to kind of address everything?
So I know most coaches do that, but I really don't do that.
No. I
go through the players. I said, these are the rules. This is what we're going to do. This is your schedule. I want you to talk to your parents about it. If they have any questions, they have my email, and we could talk then. But I expect the players, they're starting to get a little older, 12, 13, 14 years old. They need to start becoming more mature, stepping up and taking control of their playing. So I want them to be responsible. So I don't deal with the parents very much. I do occasionally, walk by them, I say hi to them. I have very little issues with parents. Little bad issues.
That's good. So Russ, let me ask you this. Is there a goal someday? I mean, it seems like you love what you're doing right now, but is there a goal ever to go back to the varsity level and be a head coach, or are you content with, coaching the intermediate teams?
I would say if the right opportunity came along in softball, especially, I would definitely look at
entertain it. Yeah,
definitely. I would love to win a state championship. That would be probably one of my goals. Just happy.
Now let me ask you, Russ. And obviously you're in North Branford. You teach there, so I don't think you're going anywhere. But is there ever a part of you in the back of your mind? Everybody loves to be able to coach the school they went to. Is there ever a part of you that wouldn't mind someday coming back to Derby and maybe coaching a year or two there?
I haven't entertained it too much. I mean, if the opportunity came along, I might look into it. But
Yeah.
I'm in a pretty good spot right now. You know, with the support I get in North Branford, I'll be unlikely to take a spot in Derby, but I would never say no to it either.
And have you been able to see the nice facility at Derby? I mean, have you been able to catch a game there yet at all or anything?
I haven't caught a game yet there, but I know about the facility. I've been by it several times, and I know the football field is phenomenal, and the softball field is great too. So that really helps to have a good team when you have good facilities. So that would be a good thing to look into.
Right. So now you're going to enter year 3 or year 4 of volleyball this year.
This will be our 4th team.
Right.
The 1 year like I said, we didn't play. We scrimmaged, so we didn't have a record that year. So
now, do you coach it all in the summer, or do the kids play it all in the summer, or how
they play travel? Like I said, I was just at one of their games. I don't get involved at all with the coaching or anything. I kind of like stand in the outfield and watch. And I'll talk to the outfielders once in a while. I don't even go in and talk to anybody. I just want to see how they're performing, how they're interacting with each other away from my team. I want to see how they do. I want to see if there's leaders out there. I want to make sure they're supporting their teammates. And you get a good view of it from the center field. So
right.
It's really important that they're good teammates. That's number one. You have to be a good teammate.
Right. Exactly. Well, Russ, I want to thank you for coming on today. It was a real pleasure talking to you. I think it's really, like I said, I've used the word cool a few times already, but I really do think it's cool how you've come full circle. You came back to coaching decades later, and the fact that you're coaching 3 sports right now is unbelievable. And whether you move up to the next level or not, I really do applaud what you're doing right now. And I think you're great for youth athletics in general. And I really want to thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Well, I appreciate it. And folks, you just got to know Russ Scovin for this last 45 minutes. And it's really, like I said, awesome what he has done in his career. I mean, when you think about it, he started his coaching career in 1979. Then he walked away for about a good 30 years. And then he came back and coached again. And he's doing great things because really, you have to prepare these kids in the middle school for high school. If you don't teach them right, they're not going to be ready to play when they get to high school. And Russ has done a tremendous job with that. He's had outstanding teams, but I think the most important thing is he's preparing them to be better softball, better volleyball, better basketball players when they get to high school. And he's one of the real good people in the game. And like I said, what he's doing right now is really remarkable. So we're going to keep rooting for Russ and look forward to watching his career as it goes even further. For In the Spotlight, that was Russ Scovin. I'm Mike Kenichi saying good night, everyone.